We've been married for 10 years. My wife gives her mother 5,000 yuan in living expenses every month. It was only later that I discovered this. My mother-in-law receives 5,000 yuan in pension every month, but my wife transfers this fixed monthly income to her first love. Ever since our son was born, the household expenses have noticeably increased, aside from the mortgage, car loan, insurance, and daily expenses. Now there's an additional education cost. I earn 10,000 a month. My wife has 5,000. Together, we have 15,000. Living in a small county should be more than enough. But my wife hands over her salary to my mother-in-law every month. Without that 5,000 yuan, our life has become a bit tight. But my wife's actions are out of filial piety towards her parents. As her husband, I can't really say much. Today, my colleagues arranged to have dinner together. To save 100 yuan on the meal costs, I made up an excuse. I said there was something at home, so I went home early. I hadn't even opened the bedroom door yet. Then I heard my wife's phone ring. She asked anxiously, "Lucas, are you okay?" My heart skipped a beat. Lucas, that's the name of my wife's first love. I suddenly felt tense. I quickly pressed my ear against the door. On the other end of the line, a man said apologetically, "Emily, the company's reimbursement hasn't arrived yet. Can you transfer me some living expenses first? My stomach doesn't feel well. I need to go to the hospital." Emily immediately agreed. "Lucas, don't worry. I'll transfer you 5,000 right now." I bit my lower lip until it turned purple. It turns out, Emily has been in contact with Lucas all these years. She told me she gives her mother-in-law 5,000 a month. Actually, the money all went to Lucas. I felt a chill in my heart. She knows the family is struggling financially, yet she convinces me to use 10,000 to cover the family's expenses. And her salary is only used to support her first love. What does that make the son? What do I count as just a backup option? Not long after, Emily spoke again. "Lucas, I transferred you 10,000 yuan. If it's not enough, let me know." 10,000. That was what I left with her, the tutoring fees for the son. I was so angry I trembled all over. My tears started to flow uncontrollably. I took a deep breath. I tried hard to calm myself down. Now is not the time to panic. I need to quickly get the money back from Emily. I can't let them take advantage anymore. I pushed the door open. Emily was stunned. She was frantically tapping on her phone screen, probably deleting chat records. I pretended not to notice her expression. I casually asked, "Are you at home?" Emily finally relaxed. She answered a bit awkwardly, "Just got back." I paused for a moment. "Continue speaking. It's time to pay the tuition for my son's interest class. Just give me the money." Emily nodded. "Transfer me 5,000 yuan." I asked in confusion. "Didn't we agree on 10,000? Emily explained with a pale face. "A few days ago, my mom had heart discomfort. She was admitted to the ICU. I really didn't expect the costs to be so high. It cost 5,000 yuan in just one day." I let out a cold laugh. When Emily lies, she really just makes it up. I have no idea how many times she has deceived me over the years, but I guess every time she lies, it's to protect the Lucas in her heart. I can't let the child suffer, and I can't let myself suffer either. This 5,000 yuan, Emily must pay me back. I pretended to be anxious and said, "Mom has entered the intensive care unit. Why didn't you tell me? I'll make a call to check the situation." "No need, I'm fine." "That's good. But how do we solve the 5,000 yuan? My son's education can't be delayed. How about asking Mom for help, or we could give her a little less living expenses each month?" "Don't worry, I'll find a part-time job. I can earn back the 5,000 yuan quickly." It seems so. Emily is unwilling to let Lucas suffer any grievances. She drives for a ride-hailing service after work to earn extra money, but she's afraid of running into acquaintances. It's awkward to pick up orders in crowded places. She can only drive around in less populated areas. As a result, she only picked up 2 passengers all night. She didn't even earn back the gas money until midnight. Emily finally dragged her exhausted body home. Her son was already asleep. I held him and pretended to be asleep. Actually, I'm secretly watching what Emily is doing. Emily went to take a look in the kitchen. She discovered there was nothing in the pot. She walked into the room disappointed. She poked my shoulder and asked me, "Why didn't you make me dinner? All these years, I've been managing the household affairs. In Emily's view, it's only natural for me to prepare 3 meals a day for her. However, the past is the past. The present is the present. If Emily is sincere with me, I'm willing to let her shine outside, while I manage the household chores at home. But now, I'm no longer willing. Even as a backup, I have my own limits. If something goes wrong with the backup, the vehicle can't continue to run." Emily seemed a bit impatient. She slightly emphasized her tone. "Jacob, I'm hungry, you get up and cook for me quickly." "I'm getting up." Forcefully pushed her hand away. I said angrily, "Emily, are you okay? What time is it now? If you want to eat, make it yourself. Don't disturb my son and me while we rest." Emily was stunned by what I said. She never expected that I would refuse her. After a while, she found it uninteresting. She turned and walked into the living room. The next morning, when I woke up, I saw a box of instant noodles and several empty beer bottles on the coffee table. Emily was lying on the sofa, not moving at all. She looked completely lifeless. Obviously, she was in a bad mood last night. These drinks left a bad taste in my heart, but not because of me, and not for the family. The living room smelled heavily of alcohol. I covered my nose and went to wash up in the bathroom. Then I made myself a sandwich, not long after finishing my meal. Emily woke up. She shouted, "Make me a bowl of hangover soup." "I have a terrible headache," I said coldly. "I'm sorry, I'm going to be late for work." "You handle it yourself." In Emily's surprised gaze, I walked out the door without looking back. I checked the home surveillance on my phone. I saw Emily standing in front of the empty plate of the sandwich I had finished. Dazed for quite a while, after a long time, she still hadn't made herself breakfast. She just crushed the instant noodles and ate them dry for 3 consecutive days. Emily hadn't been able to eat a proper meal that I made. As expected, she fell ill. Emily was very sick. Even her mother-in-law living in the countryside was alarmed. Looking at her daughter lying on the sick bed, the mother-in-law was filled with concern. She couldn't care less about the hospital's need for quiet. She immediately raised her voice to question me. "Jacob, are you intentionally not cooking for my daughter? She works during the day. At night, she has to drive late shifts. Are you really that short on money?" She still dares to criticize me. I let out a cold laugh. I continued the conversation smoothly. I pretended to hesitate before speaking. "Mom, your heart hasn't been well this month. You spent $5,000 on medical bills. We are really short on money at home right now. If you had some extra money on hand, could you help us a little?" My mother-in-law was taken aback, clearly unaware of this matter. Emily, lying in the hospital bed, also nervously clutched the sheets. However, my mother-in-law quickly reacted. She helped explain to Emily, "That's right. She indeed spent $5,000 to treat me. She is my daughter. Shouldn't I be filial? She really doesn't change her expression when she lies." I can't imagine how many times Emily and my mother-in-law have deceived me over the years. Now, I definitely won't continue to be kept in the dark. Since my mother-in-law chose to take the blame for Emily, then she must bear the consequences. I paused for a moment and replied with a smile, "So Emily is sending you money." I never speak out of turn, but after all, Emily is the child's mother. She has also said to focus on external matters. Raising the son is her responsibility. I turned my head and spoke to Emily, who was lying in bed, pale. "Rest well, and don't forget to keep driving tonight." After saying that, I turned to leave. My mother-in-law got anxious and quickly called out to me. She scratched her head a bit awkwardly and said with a smile, trying to please, "Son-in-law, here is 5,000 yuan for you. Let Emily rest for a couple of days." My mother-in-law stuffed the 5,000 yuan into my hand. I accepted it directly. Before leaving, I deliberately spoke with a hint of sarcasm. "Mom, please take care of Emily. I still need to hurry back to work to make money. After all, our family is currently short on money." Emily's mouth twitched in anger. She was really upset with me, but deep down she felt a bit uncertain. There was no way to refute me. After leaving the hospital, I went straight to the mall. Using the money my mother-in-law gave me, I bought the gaming console I had been eyeing for a long time. Over the years, for the sake of the family, I have always been reluctant to spend money on myself, let alone a gaming console. I couldn't even bear to buy $100 piece of clothing, but I have never been stingy with Emily. If she likes a $2,000 bag, I would buy it for her no matter how difficult it is for me. I believe that as a man, I should treat my wife well. Until today, I finally realized that I am first and foremost myself, and only then a husband. After shopping, I happily went to the supermarket. I bought the steak that my son likes. At that time, Emily was eating porridge and tea eggs in the hospital. My son and I enjoyed steak at home with knives and forks. All of this is her own doing, because she betrayed the family and the marriage first. After finishing the meal, I was about to wash the dishes. Suddenly, I heard the computer in the bedroom making noise. I walked into the room. I found that Emily's WeChat was still logged in. I gently clicked the mouse. I saw the name Lucas again. He sent Emily 7 messages. After a while, the red dots disappeared. I opened the chat interface. I saw that Lucas sent 3 screenshots. The screenshots showed his wife often secretly transfers money to her family. She also frequently complains to her family about his incompetence. Emily, I'm so upset. I really can't hold on any longer. I want a divorce. Can you help me find a lawyer? That's right. Does the post you shared earlier still count? I was taken aback. I quickly opened Emily's moments to check. Over the years, Emily rarely posts updates on her moments. Content about me and our son is even scarcer. Most of it is work-related stuff. She always says she doesn't like to expose her life to everyone's view. The last time our whole family went on vacation to Miami, at my repeated request, Emily finally reluctantly posted a photo of our son at the beach on her moments. But that was 6 months ago. Emily's moments aren't many. I quickly scrolled down to the bottom. At the very bottom, there was a private post she set to be visible for 10 years. As long as you are willing, the groom can be changed at any time. I felt a lump in my throat. The posting time of that moment was exactly on the day we got married. That day, Emily held my hand as we walked into the wedding venue. When she said, "I do," what comes to my mind is Lucas in a suit. That moment, I was on the verge of breaking down. This 10-year marriage, it's like a farce, and I am the most ridiculous one on the other side. Emily, lying in the hospital bed, was extremely anxious. She replied with a pained heart, "Okay, I will help you find the best lawyer." Lucas still doesn't give up. He continues to ask, "Is this for real?" I looked at the screen. I couldn't help but sneer. Neither of these two is any good. Lucas knows Emily has a family, yet he still wants to interfere in someone else's marriage. To be honest, I really want to know how Emily will respond. After a while, Emily replied, "I keep my word. As long as you get divorced, I will be with you." I shook my head with a bitter smile. Deep down, I understood. I really shouldn't have any hopes. I slammed the laptop screen shut. At this moment, I was on the verge of losing my mind. I really wanted to run to the hospital and confront Emily. Why did she have to treat me like this? Doesn't she feel even a little guilty? But I still held myself back. I must find evidence of Emily's affair to make her and Lucas accountable for their actions. 3 days later, Emily was discharged from the hospital. My mother-in-law was supporting Emily, like helping a big child walk home. As soon as they entered the door, they saw the receipt for the gaming console that I had intentionally placed on the coffee table. Emily frowned. She didn't dare to speak, but my mother-in-law immediately got angry. She squinted her eyes and stared for a long time. She asked me sternly, "Jacob, what is this machine you bought? It cost 4,000 yuan. Emily quietly pointed, hinting at the gaming console in front of the TV. The mother-in-law keeps complaining. "Is this machine made of gold? Such a small thing, and it costs 4,000. I said calmly, "Mom, this is the discounted price. The original price was nearly 10,000, and we've been married for 10 years. This is the first time I've bought something for myself. Emily spends more than 4,000 a year on cosmetics." I deliberately looked at Emily. I asked, "Isn't that right, Emily?" Emily hesitated for a moment. She just nodded. She didn't say anything. She's always like this. Never takes sides. Between me and her mom, she always chooses her mom. But what if it's Lucas? I think Emily definitely wouldn't stay silent. The mother-in-law is still going on. Emily, that's a work requirement. She needs to present herself well for her front desk job. Buy a game console. What's the point? I really can't hold back anymore. Speaking of which, I earn $10,000 a month. It all goes towards this family. All the clothes I wear were bought on sale. So what if I spend $4,000 on a gaming console? I have a lot of work pressure. I also need to relax. Emily frowned. She sighed helplessly. She simply couldn't be bothered to listen anymore. She just lay on the sofa and started scrolling on her phone. Family conflict. The key lies in the attitude of the other half. Ever since I married Emily, my relationship with my mother-in-law has been tense. In this, Emily's pretending to be confused and stirring up trouble cannot be overlooked. She suddenly sat up and shouted loudly, "Jacob, why hasn't my insurance been paid this month?" I looked at her and replied coldly, "Not enough money." Emily frowned and said with dissatisfaction, "How could it not be enough? You earn $10,000 a month. And always say there's not enough money. If you let me manage the money, we wouldn't be in a situation where we can't even afford insurance now." Emily acts like I owe her a lot of money, but she might have forgotten. This family relies entirely on my salary. Since that's the case, I will help her calculate this properly. I cleared my throat and said, "Emily, I don't owe you anything. In the past 10 years, you haven't contributed a single cent to the family. The car loan and mortgage are all paid by me alone. Have you spent any money on our son's education?" I pointed to the calendar on the wall and continued, "Every holiday, I always buy gifts for my mom, no matter whether she likes them or not. The things I buy are never less than 1,000 yuan. This money was saved up by me living frugally. The remaining money I used to pay for my own insurance. As for your insurance, you'll have to figure that out yourself." Emily looked surprised. She thinks I'm messing around. She said angrily, "We are all married. Why separate it so clearly?" My mother-in-law chimed in, "That's right. As a family, there's no need to be so divided." "Jacob, you really did something wrong in this matter," I said with a cold smile. "Is that so? If I don't leave myself a way out, the house might get emptied out." Emily asked with some unease. "What do you mean by that?" I said seriously. "I just saw your moments." Emily clearly panicked. She quickly walked to the computer. She hurriedly logged out of her WeChat. She said angrily, "How can you casually look at my WeChat? Can you respect my privacy? What else did you see?" Emily breathed a sigh of relief. Her tone became firmer. "I just casually scrolled through your moments. Those were just sent casually in the past. Don't make a big deal out of it." She was scratching her head. She hurried back to the bedroom. "Go ahead. Please help me pay the insurance quickly. I know Emily too well. She scratches her head every time she lies. I'm not in a hurry to expose her. I'm just quietly watching her perform. At the end of the month, I still haven't helped Emily pay the insurance. She was very angry. After patiently persuading me a few times, she simply gave up, no longer counting on me." Emily said angrily, "Who doesn't have a past? I'm not doing anything to wrong you. How long are you going to make a scene?" I said without looking up. "I'm not being unreasonable. You need to understand the actual situation. There really isn't any money at home." Emily wanted to say something more, but suddenly received a phone call. She hurriedly left. I vaguely heard her mention words like divorce compensation. At that moment, I suddenly remembered that day when Lucas asked Emily to help find a lawyer. Emily has always had a little stash of money. I knew about this a long time ago. I had originally delayed submitting the insurance. I just wanted to force her to take out this money. But it seems now she can't take it out anymore. Her money has all been spent on hiring the best lawyer for Lucas. I watched Emily drive out of the community. I quickly put on a baseball cap. I quietly followed her on my electric bike. Sure enough, after Emily parked the car, she walked straight into a law firm. I waited bored in the shade of a tree for 3 hours. Finally, I saw her come out of the law firm with a worried look on her face. "Mr. Smith, this matter will trouble you." Sigh, she really has put in a lot of effort for Lucas. She's almost worried to the point of her hair turning gray. Emily came out of the law firm. He drove away. She never noticed I was there. She just left. I took off my hat. I walked into the law firm. The lawyer just now walked over with a big smile. I smiled and asked him, "Hello, may I ask if Mtks Emily has left? I am her husband." Mr. Smith was taken aback for a moment. He said, "Mtks Emily just left. Is there something you need?" "Here's the thing," I explained. "Recently, she has been helping my friend with a legal case. I originally planned to come with her, but I couldn't make it because of a last-minute issue. Can you tell me about the progress of the case now?" Mr. Smith didn't think much. He directly took me into the office. In there, I saw all the evidence provided by Emily. There were quite a few chat records, all showing that Emily transferred money to Lucas. When Mr. Smith turned to get some water, I quickly took pictures of the evidence. This money was earned together during our marriage. I must get it back from Lucas. You remember 3 years ago, our company had serious financial problems. We didn't receive our salaries for 2 consecutive months. At that time, my son wanted a 5 yuan fried chicken leg. I couldn't even afford that, but during such difficult times, Emily still insisted on helping Lucas. I shook my head with a bitter smile. Mr. Smith thought I was smiling bitterly. He then began to talk about Lucas's situation. That's when I understood. His wife had reasons to dislike him. There were indeed reasons. When Lucas and Emily got married, they both cherished each other. Emily hid her feelings very well. If I hadn't happened to come home early, I would never have discovered her secret. Lucas was a bit foolish. He kept in touch with Emily for a long time. His conversations were always ambiguous. After his wife found out, she started to drain his secret savings and said he was useless. Now, Emily insists that it's all a misunderstanding. Lucas, on the other hand, is determined to sue his wife after dividing the property. He plans to get back together with Emily. This really proves that old saying, "You attract what you are." The values of these two people are quite off. I should leave quickly. I hope they can get along well. I casually made small talk with Mr. Smith and hurried back home. 3 days later, Emily started not coming home at night. I went to find Mr. Smith to discreetly inquire. I heard Lucas's lawsuit is progressing very smoothly. He has received half of the property. It seems that Lucas can't wait to come to New York to see Emily. In the evening, Emily's call came in right on time again. The company has taken on a big project recently. Everyone is working overtime. I'm at the front desk. I have to be ready to assist at any time. She won't be coming back tonight. I haven't even had a chance to speak. The son spoke to the phone with a sense of grievance. "Mom, when are you coming back? I miss you so much." My nose tinged with sadness. Indeed, the relationship between parents is not good. Often, it's the children who are most hurt. My son just started elementary school. He's still young. He doesn't understand anything. He just sincerely feels that Mom works too hard. Emily was silent for a moment. She simply replied, "You need to study well. Mom will come back to see you in a few days." Suddenly, a man's voice came from the other end of the phone. The voice was very loud. "Emily, who is it?" Emily quickly hung up the phone. I chuckled coldly to myself. That man must be Lucas. As for the sound Lucas made just now, he must have done it on purpose. This is a roundabout provocation. He wants to assert his dominance over me. Emily is a hesitant person. She likes Lucas, but she can't decisively give up her family. Lucas's goal is to sow discord, to speed up our divorce process, so he can have a chance to replace me. I serve my son a good meal. I gently stroke his head. I say softly, "After dinner, go do your homework. Dad is going to find Mom." My son obediently nods. Seeing my son being so obedient and understanding, I feel both guilty and sad inside. The guilt comes from the fact that I will soon make my son lose a complete family. The sadness comes from thinking about Emily. All these years, I have invested so much in this family. I thought having a child would bring harmony to the family. I have done a lot for Emily, but in the end I still couldn't change her mind. After a while I calmed down. I went back to the bedroom to find Emily's bank card. I went straight to the bank. Arrived at the bank, I checked Emily's account details for the last 3 days. Quickly, a spending record at a Manhattan hotel caught my attention. Emily booked a room there for 7 days. It cost a total of $2,100. Seeing this, I was extremely angry. Even my hand holding the bank card started to shake. Last year, I went to great lengths to persuade Emily to travel with me. When we arrived at our destination, I booked a hotel for $150 a night. All the way, she kept complaining about my spending. She also said the hotel was too far out. It was inconvenient to go anywhere. At that time, I wasn't in a good mood, but I was still somewhat happy. Now I understand. A woman's love for someone can be seen through her spending. It's not that I wanted to book an expensive hotel, but Emily felt in her heart that I shouldn't stay in a high-end hotel. She was very generous in front of Lucas. I'm afraid he might feel neglected. A room for $300 a night. She booked it for a whole week. Therefore, she doesn't plan to go home this week. I'm clenching my fists tightly. I drove straight to the Manhattan Hotel. This opportunity is presented to me. I must seize it. As soon as I entered, I walked directly to the front desk. I said quietly, "Hello, I'm Emily's husband. I forgot to take the room card when I went out. Could you please give me a spare card?" Indeed, I'm not sure which room Emily and Lucas are in, but as long as I act natural enough, no one will be suspicious. The hotel has a responsibility to protect guests' privacy. If I directly ask for the room number, I'm sure I wouldn't get it. Sure enough, the front desk completely believed my words. "You are in room 305, right?" she said as she handed me a room card. I smiled and nodded to express my thanks. Continue. I pretended to walk into the elevator. Finally, I stopped in the corridor on the second floor. I ordered takeout for the room where Emily is staying. Also asked the delivery guy to help take a picture of the situation inside the room. I originally planned to rush over and hit Emily a couple of times, but after thinking carefully, I still think this method is more reliable. After all, I am one person against two people. Definitely won't take advantage. What if I lose control of my emotions? Perhaps they even forgot to take evidence. Half an hour later, I received 3 photos sent by the delivery guy. In the photo, Lucas's clothes are a bit messy. There are quite a few marks on the neck. He frowned, received the takeout with a puzzled expression. Emily is lying on the white sheets of the hotel, tightly wrapped in the quilt, with dissatisfaction in the gaze. It seems my takeout order interrupted Emily and her first love's date. I suddenly find it quite interesting. Why should I be gloomy at home while Emily enjoys her happy time at the hotel? Tonight, I must disturb her peace no matter what, and keep her on edge all night, unable to sleep peacefully. I thought for a moment. I dialed Emily's friend's number at her company when Olivia heard my voice. Her tone was noticeably tense. "Jacob, are you looking for Emily?" Emily went to the bathroom. She can't take the call. I continued. "All right. As long as Emily is with you guys, it's fine. Wait for her to come back. You remember to have her call me back." Olivia hurriedly hung up the phone. I called again, but the line was busy. It seems she has kindly told Emily. That was exactly my intention, to make Emily think Olivia leaked the inside information to me. 3 minutes later, I knocked on the door of room 305. "Who is it? So annoying." Over and over again. Lucas frowned as he opened the door when he saw it was me. He was taken aback for a moment. Then the corners of his mouth slightly curled up. I noticed the marks on him. I calmly took out my phone and snapped a photo. At this moment, Emily also noticed me. Her face suddenly turned pale. What are you doing here?" I looked at her. She was barely wearing any clothes, hiding under the blanket, too scared to show herself. I gave a cold smile. I retorted, "Why can't I come, or did you do something here?" Emily's voice trembled a bit. Lucas went back to New York. He got divorced. I'm here to see him." "Is that so?" He looked over. His gaze landed on the bed. Emily's pink lingerie was quietly lying on the sheets. Lucas hurriedly put on his clothes. He covered his face with his hands, trying to stop me from continuing to film. However, this evidence is more than enough. Emily didn't even have time to put on clothes. She rushed down wrapped in a bedsheet, standing next to Lucas, as if afraid I would do something to Lucas. She said in a low, submissive voice, "You should go back first. I'll explain these things to you later." I said with a trembling voice, "Turn around." "What day was that, Emily? You remember you have a son." Though I had long lost hope in this woman, there was still a pain in my heart. Why am I always the one who gets abandoned? Before Emily could say anything, Lucas suddenly stood up and said, "Jacob, don't just think about yourself. Stop trying to use the child to bind Emily." I suddenly didn't know what to say. If I could really influence Emily's decision, she wouldn't have taken care of Lucas for 10 years. I raised my hand and slapped Lucas hard. I said coldly, "Go away. This is not your place to interrupt. Jacob is my and Emily's child. It's not that I want to control her, but the law dictates that she must raise him." Actually, I didn't use much force, but Lucas pretended to fall to the ground. Emily looked particularly distressed. She could no longer hide it. She immediately squatted down and hugged Lucas. Continuously asking, "Are you okay?" She raised her head, angrily said to me, "Jacob, don't go too far. Lucas has just divorced. His emotions are particularly fragile. He can't withstand any blow at that moment. I'm with my wife of 10 years. Suddenly, I felt a sense of unfamiliarity that I had never experienced before. His gaze towards me is filled with resentment. "It seems that I am the one who made the big mistake," I said coldly. "It doesn't matter. After all, we are about to get divorced." At that moment, Emily seemed a bit distracted. She doesn't still have feelings for me. She just isn't ready for the divorce yet. Lucas stood up with red eyes. He covered his face with his hands. His voice trembled as he shouted, "If it weren't for the family's opposition back then, how could Emily choose to marry you? Emily hasn't been doing well, neither have I, all these years. Emily has always been my support. If it weren't for her being there with me, I might have collapsed long ago. The relationship between Emily and me, you will never understand. Even if you have a child, what difference does it make?" I'm too lazy to say much more to him. I spoke directly to Emily. "I know you both want to be together, but one more night won't hurt. You go home and find your ID documents. We will get a divorce first thing tomorrow morning. After the paperwork is completed, you can go wherever you want, be with whoever you want." Emily listened, unconsciously looking at Lucas. Lucas said supportively, "Emily, you go ahead. I can take care of myself. After tonight, you won't have to be bound by him anymore." As she was leaving, I still had some doubts. I couldn't help but ask, "You always say I control Emily, so I want to know, what exactly have I controlled about her, her freedom, or her legs?" Lucas questioned angrily. "All these years, did you ever give Emily a bit of freedom? You call me every day to hurry me up, and constantly check on me on WeChat. This is really too much." I smiled coldly. "I see. This is what is called abnormal behavior. However, these are actually my responsibilities as a husband. There should be basic respect for a wife." It was I who took the initiative to report to her. I allowed her to check in at any time. I have never made any demands on Emily, but she belittled me like this to justify her wrong behavior. I indeed urged Emily to come home because she has a stomach condition. She also has many social obligations. I often called to urge her to come home. It was actually out of concern for her stomach issues. In the end, she is the one who suffers. If I really could control Emily, how could I have only discovered 10 years later that she had feelings for someone else? Forget it. Let's not mention it. I didn't think much more about it. I directly walked towards the elevator. On the way home, Emily suddenly asked me, "Jacob, are we really getting a divorce?" I asked. "What else could we do? Are we going to live together with 3 people? Are we really going to live together? The 3 of us?" Emily fell silent for a moment. Then she spoke. "I'm sorry, but I don't want to hear I'm sorry. I just hope she can truly treat me well." That night, Emily gathered all the documents. Then she slept in her son's room. I lay in bed. I called the lawyer. I handed him the evidence of Emily's infidelity during our marriage. After we finished talking, it was already early morning. I spent the whole night thinking. I couldn't sleep at all the next day. Emily rarely woke up early. Usually, she was never in a hurry. But today, she was acting out of character. She urged me on. "The Civil Affairs Bureau is open. Let's hurry and line up." "Okay," I nodded calmly. After the stamps were affixed, Emily walked straight ahead of me. While walking, she sent a voice message. "Lucas, I'll be there soon." I coldly called out to Emily, "Don't rush to leave. We'll see each other in court." Emily turned her head in surprise. "What are you talking about? You're going to sue me." I said with a hint of a smile, "Don't overthink it. I'm not just suing you, I'm also suing Lucas." Not long after, Lucas and Emily both received court summons. When my lawyer presented all the evidence, Emily and Lucas's faces instantly turned pale. Emily thought she had done everything perfectly, but I had actually grasped everything long ago. In the end, the court ruled that 2/3 of the property belonged to me, and all the transfers Lucas received from Emily over the past 10 years must all be repaid to me. Walking out of the court, Emily said angrily, "You're so shameless. You actually took secret photos of me." I paused and replied, "Emily, I'm just taking back what belongs to me, back home. I packed my bags simply tomorrow. I have to sell this apartment to pay Emily 1/3 of the assets." I had the moving company send all of Emily's things to the Manhattan Hotel. From now on, I'm going to start a new life. No looking back. I posted the house selling information online. 3 days later, someone called to inquire. I happily answered the phone, but found it was Olivia calling. Her voice sounded a bit hoarse. It sounded very helpless. "Jacob, you have time to sell the house. Can you at least pay back my medical expenses first? Can you talk to Emily about it? I really didn't betray her. She hit me. I still haven't settled that medical bill of over 30,000. I do owe Olivia an apology because Emily misunderstood her. It was actually caused by me. But Emily and I are already divorced. This money, it has nothing to do with me." I cleared my throat. "Go ahead. I have divorced Emily. If you need something, contact her." Olivia was so surprised she almost couldn't close her mouth. "What?" Olivia was still complaining on the phone. "She no longer has a job now. My medical expenses are also gone. Our sisterhood over the years. I really don't want to go through legal channels, but I have already hung up the phone. Emily has resigned. She will soon have nothing left. Her relationship with Lucas, isn't it based on money? I'm really curious what Lucas will react when he finds out Emily actually has nothing. What his reaction will be." Half a month later, the house has finally been sold. After I received all the payments, I transferred Emily's rightful share to her account. Then I completely deleted all her contact information. 6 months later, I unexpectedly received a call from my ex-mother-in-law. During this time, because of my son, I occasionally still keep in touch with my ex-mother-in-law. I also arrange for my son to visit his grandparents, until my ex-mother-in-law cried out my childhood name. "Jacob, can you come back? This family of ours is a complete mess right now." It was then that I realized how unruly Lucas had been these days, because Emily lost her place to stay. She moved in with her mother in the countryside with Lucas. Lucas was very dissatisfied with his grandmother's way of life. He couldn't stand her scolding either. A few times he even physically assaulted her. After Emily lost her job, she stayed at home all the time, living off her parents. She even became addicted to playing mahjong, often playing for 8 hours straight. They were tight on money, so they tried every means to get her pension from the old lady. If this continues, my ex-mother-in-law's savings are about to be exhausted. She used to treat me poorly. Now it's Lucas's turn to treat her poorly. It's really a case of what goes around comes around. The ex-mother-in-law cried while recounting her recent experiences to me. I listened with great interest on the other end of the line. I might as well have been snacking on sunflower seeds. "Jacob, it was my fault as the elder before. Come back," the ex-mother-in-law said with a tearful voice. Suddenly, Lucas's voice came through the phone. His tone was very harsh. "Mom, why haven't you cooked yet? The whole family is waiting. You're still playing on your phone. I think you might as well sell that phone for cash." The ex-mother-in-law quickly responded. She hurriedly hung up the phone and immediately ran into the kitchen to get busy. In this situation, I can only say, everyone has their own difficulties. Looking back, during the 2 years I resigned to stay home with the kids because I was too tired. As a result, I developed tendinitis. At that time, my former mother-in-law said her wrist was injured. She couldn't lift the spatula. She couldn't cook. Yet she insisted that I cook for the whole family. Nowadays, she can easily lift pots and pans. She can also prepare 3 meals a day for the whole family by herself. Her current situation is indeed sad, but I don't feel she deserves my sympathy. I'm not a saint. Seeing someone who once hurt me doing better than I am only makes me feel more uncomfortable. I thought returning was just my former mother-in-law's idea, but a few days later, I received a friend request from Emily's alternate account. She cautiously asked me, "How have you been lately?" I simply replied to her, "I'm doing well. Do you have something to discuss?" After a while, Emily just replied to me, "I'm having regrets. I've missed you too." I almost threw up on the spot. I'll never forget the day of the divorce. Emily has been pushing me all along. If it weren't for the fact that the current Lucas is so different from her first love, she wouldn't think of me at all. Back then, I was Emily's backup, and I still am. I replied with "Errol," and then I blocked her alternate account. I dislike hypocritical women the most, so I unhesitatingly forwarded the chat records to Lucas. At least I did a good deed.